Hey guys, welcome. We just got back from Harry Potter. Oh, my bad. I mean, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. No, I just got that theme song stuck in my head, because the movie opens with that little jingle. And then it goes
For like
into
5 seconds.
Yeah.
for 5 seconds. Then it goes. It's just to remind you, hey, you remember the good times?
It does make
So-
really good times.
Yeah.
It does. And that logo reveal too. So the question is, can lightning strike twice for J.K. Rowling and this massive franchise for the movie studios? And let me just preface this. There's going to be no spoilers. We can discuss a lot more in the separate spoilers video. But for here, don't let my opinion, since I'll lead the video and talk most of us, don't let my opinion influence yours. Because I think my opinion is probably going to piss off a lot of people.
And I'm on the same boat with him.
You think so?
I'm on the same boat with you. Yeah.
Okay. So here's...
Just sit over here together. Jeff.
you need to switch seats. We're about to be fighting. Okay.
Sides.
So here's my opinion of the film. Did lightning strike twice? No. Unfortunately, absolutely not. The film lacks any emotional resonance or stakes. These characters pale. It's almost unfair to compare it to Harry Potter. So I went in thinking there's going to be its own franchise, and I'm going to judge it on its own merits, even though it will have ties to Harry Potter because obviously it's the same wizarding world, except for we're in New York. So I tried my best to separate the two, and I think I did that. And even separating the two, judging these characters on their own. Tina, the lead female actress. Who's the main guy? Don't even remember his name. Newt. Right, Newt. And then Jacob. I feel these characters are weak. That's why we brought our own Jacob. Which actually, Jacob is the best character in the film. I'll give that hands down. We'll talk more about that later. But I felt like these were weaker characters in a...
Is that like they're an off-brand Harry Potter, Hermione?
No, not because they're nothing like Potter, Hermione, and stuff. I don't expect them to be. But on their own, they feel like a very thin veneer. There's very little character arcs for even Newt at the end of the film doesn't change much. Nobody really changes much. And it feels contrived. Lots of little parts of this film feel contrived. It feels like a CGI fest. And I'm sorry to say, it just feels like this is a movie studio setting up a new franchise so that they can crank out 2 more films, which I know at least up to 5 films they said that this franchise could be. In between 3. He's
All right, Potter, welcome back.
So let me break down the plot synopsis, and then we'll go to what we feel. So in this particular film, Newt is sort of a curator or a rescuer, so to speak, of some of these magical, fantastic beasts.
One-man conservation society.
Yeah, he's got a zoo in his case, right? Which you're not supposed to, capture animals from captivity. I don't think they're very happy in there. I'm just playing. They got their own little lands and little pieces of this massive space within
like
his
portable
suitcase.
zoo.
It is a portable, big-ass zoo. Better than a zoo. They're not all caged. They're all, they can roam free and shit because it's so big in the case. So basically, he goes to America, kind of a weak excuse to go there. I think I didn't really understand it. He was going there for the bird character to release it, I believe, in its own habitat. But that brought up questions for me. You're going to release magical creatures and eventually muggles, or as Americans call them, no-mages, right? Or is it no-mages? No-mages? No-magics, right. We'll eventually see them, but okay, whatever.
Shoot it down.
So he goes there, and his particular beasts are rowdy, and they break open, and he ropes in this Jacob character who is a muggle, non-magical, and he experiences this whole world of fantastical beasts. And then this storyline also manages to involve the wizarding world of America, who are underground and who are obviously concealing themselves from the human world, but there's this whole thing about suppressing magic and sort of people who fear magic as witch hunters and references to Salem who want to find these people and expose them. And so it's about, the cross between do we reveal ourselves and will we eventually be revealed, and we've got to stop that. So that's basically the story. And honestly, I felt it was kind of weak. Joe, you're a real big fan of the Harry Potter films. Joe always talks about them and stuff, and we did a board game stream with Harry Potter. How did you like this film as a big, massive Harry Potter fan?
Okay, I'm gonna say there are some plot points I did not like, but overall I really enjoyed this film.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, you did.
There's some stuff I can't say because there's spoilers.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the spoiler
But I
section.
actually did enjoy this film.
Jacob, how do you like it?
I think that
Do you feel any of those criticisms that I said were legit?
I think that if you don't like Harry Potter in the first place, you definitely will not like this movie.
All right, so let's get that out of the way. And I actually like Harry Potter, but I think I know a little less trivia than, say, Joe might know. Yeah. So maybe some of these references actually kind of went over my head.
It's possible. I, like Joe, I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd. Read all the books, seen the movies 8 million times, and next time I'm in England, I will definitely see the play that she wrote.
The Cursed Child.
So, like any franchise, once the last movie ended, you're kind of like, oh no, man, my life's over. This has ended. Everyone's gone.
No, it was...
And so when she made a new book, Fantastic, you're like, yes, I get to go right back into my freaking Harry Potter world.
Yeah.
With that said, I did really enjoy the movie, but I don't think it was anywhere near Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
of course.
Don't really see magic in the American School of Wizardry.
They named the American school. I missed it.
Yeah.
It was like New Winter or something.
Should definitely keep it
not
in
as
England.
good as Hogwarts,
Yeah,
basically.
no, nowhere near.
Hogwarts.
But we
I
don't see the school. It's just referenced.
Did very much enjoy it, and from what I read, Dumbledore and some other characters will be coming back in the other movies.
Ooh, okay.
So I will definitely like to see my Harry Potter people come back.
They mentioned Dumbledore.
Yeah.
I think, though, judging this film on its own merits, that these two gentlemen are just doing escapism, and they're going back and they're embracing themselves in the Harry Potter blanket. That Wizarding World blanket.
They were like,
But I will challenge you here, and I will say I feel like this, in a way, sort of rips that world apart or makes that world lose some of its magic. I don't like this idea that it's just going on the train, going to this magical land in Hogwarts and learning, and they're completely separate almost. Well, a little bit of stuff happened in the real world in the Harry Potter series,
different.
but now it's so mixed, it's so integrated, the veils are so thin between these two worlds that it just almost doesn't feel special anymore. I thought that guys in fedoras and long trench coats with magic wands doing their shit, which you see multiple times, the army of this Madam President, I guess there's a female president of the United States, of the magic world in the United States. And so she has her own little enforcement agency. And so you see these guys, and I thought, man, that's going to be so fucking cool. Like Prohibition-era gangsters wielding magic. But it almost, when I saw them do their thing, it takes away from it. It's generic. The spell is almost, it's like Call of Duty, They don't even say shit, Joe.
Yeah, they don't
It's just,
say anything, really.
I was waiting for I'm reloading! And they're like reloading their mags.
Yeah, I see your point. That's
They're
why
like,
I
we
kinda
need to
knocked it
ourselves.
down a peg or two.
Right. So so you got that, and then just there. I don't know how to say it. Newt doesn't have the emotional weight, the identifying with him as Harry did, and so there's no character except for Jacob to center yourself with and identify with, and that's why I think Jacob is the best character. You've seen him in the trailers. He's the bigger guy that's just all wide-eyed and be like, well, he has some of the best comedy moments in the film. It's almost worth seeing just for the. I'm not saying the film's terrible. I'm just saying that it's lightning didn't strike twice. It pales in comparison to the Harry Potter franchise, and even in its own merits, I feel it's very weak story to set up, 2 to 3 to 4 films. What do you think, Del?
If you don't compare it to the Harry Potter movies, even though that's wrong not to, because
It's wrong not to.
it's like a
That's what they're banking on.
It's a beginning, yeah. You know, they're trying to live up to the Harry Potter name and stuff. They could have picked a better story to come in on. There wasn't that much of a grab. And at the end of the movie, it just feels like everything leading up to the end of the movie, which we'll talk about, just doesn't live up to what the original Potter movies did. There's no foreboding or looming presence that you get to look forward to like you did in the first book, second book, third book, things like that.
What are some of the good things? What were you saying?
I personally have not read the book Fantastic Beasts yet, so it's possible that the book, unless someone has read it in here, that the book had a lot more in it, but to make the movies stretch out 5, that kind of...
Oh, yeah. You've got that syndrome. Now, Harry Potter was the first to start this, where you got part 1, part 2, but it actually needed it. Deathly Hallows needed 2 parts, and all these other movie studios copied it, and maybe even Fantastic Beasts is copying it, where it's stretching the material out, but it's hard for me to say. Now, what parts of the film did you feel worked? Was there any plot points, side stories, anything, love stories? Let's talk about, okay, so in this film, I don't think this is geared for children. As I was driving home, I think it was Dell that said, I think that this is, geared to children. I said, no, I disagree. Everybody's older. You got flirtation, you've got a love story, you've got kind of 2 love stories. It's more adult. You've got the Call of Duty, magic throwing and
that's why I thought
the action spectacle and the only thing I think that caters to children is some of these fantastical beast designs and the CGI. But for me, it reminds me of that famous quote from George Lucas, who needs to do his take his own advice, that a special effect without a story is a pretty boring thing, an uninspiring thing. And so almost every single creature that didn't get its own story, that didn't get its own setup, I wasn't as, majestified as the big bird of everybody's like, oh, look at this bird. And the music swells. Oh, man, feel emotion because the bird is so majestic. And I'm like, that bird looks fucking stupid. It looks like a fucking
You look stupid.
I knew it. I knew it. So we disagree on the creature designs, but note that the one creature that steals all the gold and the shiniest stuff, I like that guy. Why? Because he had a story. He had a little, they gave him screen time. They gave him backstory. His thing is he loves gold and shit. And the twig creature that he has, that has a great little character and stuff. And that's a CGI effect that I buy. But, all the other ones in there that were supposed to be, like...
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. I didn't really buy it, and
they were basically like brief interludes leading from scene to scene, and they were used as like setup pieces for next parts of the story. And I wish they would have focused more on the creatures rather than like this overarching thing they had going.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I don't understand the wizarding world over here in America with the president, and it just doesn't seem like it works. It kind of seems like it's all forced together so that we can have this new franchise. Let's talk about the villain in broad terms so we don't spoil it, and then we'll move to some pros and cons and final verdicts, and then get to spoilers, because that's where we can really let loose. So Marvel recently has kind of had problems with their villains, and they're not as impactful or complex. Did you feel that the stakes were high enough in this particular film and the villain was interesting or good?
Yeah, I really like the villain on this one. In the beginning, it's, what is it? Grindelwolf?
Yeah, well...
Basically, he's like Voldemort.
Is it Grindelwolf?
No, well, I don't know his name. It's like Greenwald or something.
Grindelwald.
Well, yeah.
Get names right.
Well, there's actually 2 villains. Del, if you want to talk about the second one.
So, I gotta bring up the whole villain thing anyway as like an overarching thing that I have to like, because you seem to, you think the villain's good, OJ, right?
Yeah.
I think the villain is bad at the beginning where they're showing all the newspapers. That goes by so quick, and I didn't understand it.
For the entire movie, there really was no villain up until like the last 20 minutes of the film. And even then, you don't even know the motivation of the villain. For the entire movie, you have no bad guy. It focuses on the beasts, but there's no bad guy the entire movie.
Is it like that in the Sorcerer's Stone, the first Harry Potter film?
You know there's a bad guy in the Sorcerer's Stone.
There's this weight on your shoulders that that there's this guy that's so powerful to kill Harry's parents or whatnot.
But in this movie, there's no weight. It's just a bunch of shenanigans for like the entire movie, and you never
CGI shenanigans.
CGI shenanigans, but you never address the bad guy. or villain or whatever you want to call it till the very end of the movie. And because there's no like looming threat or anything the entire movie, you're like, what's the point?
It does try to tackle a theme that I think J.K. Rowling was trying to put in this film. What are the themes in the film? How does this link to real life and society? And we'll talk a little bit about that in the spoilers and the way she handles that particular story aspect of family abuse. Is something that's hard to broach, especially in a film where people come, fantastical beasts! Oh, and then people are getting, beat. We don't ever see anything like that, but she does broach that topic. We talk about that in the spoilers, so that was a separate plot line. How did you feel, Jacob, about the love stories? They injected 2 of them.
They weren't the strongest thing in the world.
Yeah. He's starting to realize, look at this smile.
No, I saw. There wasn't really much romance going on. I think the 2 characters that really had a romance was more just flirting with each other than it was falling in love. Yeah, I don't see much of a love story unless it builds up later.
Overbearing or anything.
As far as the villain thing, in Sorcerer's Stone, you get happy little land, and then right off the bat, there's an evil presence. You can't speak its name, and it wants to kill Harry. And it's going to use other people to get to his method. So you got this thing constantly. In this movie, evil, hour and a half of finding creatures, and then at the end it's like, oh, fuck, yeah, there's evil people.
And evil that you don't buy and you don't understand. It's set up so quickly in newspapers, and that's not even really the evil of the film. It's a completely different thing that reveals itself later on. And then at the end of the film, in that 3rd act, they realize, oh, we resolved this evil. Oh shit! You remember that other one? The guy that we showed in the papers. Well, let's resolve this real quick.
They even go so far as to be like, oh, it's in Europe. Don't worry about it.
What's in Europe?
The evil. At the beginning, they're like, oh yeah, this evil's in Europe right now.
Oh right.
Don't worry about it.
But it ends up in America. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so let's go ahead and give some final verdicts for Fantastic Beasts, and don't let some of my criticisms of the film, it cause rage, and for you to grab the pitchforks and for you to downvote the video. If you want to, fine. But just know that I criticize it because I like it. I like this world. I want to see a better film in this if they're going to make a franchise, you got to bring it a little harder. Maybe the material wasn't strong enough for David Yates, the director of this film, who directed pretty much every single Harry Potter film except for like 2 or 3. Maybe it wasn't enough material for him to work with. And maybe he needs to be heralded and lauded for taking thin material and making it so majestical, because there are legitimately awesome sequences in this film, and sequences that do take you back to the wizarding world, and you're like, yeah, let's fucking wizards, man.
I think the best way to put it is we're not hating the universe. We're holding it to a standard that it needs to be held to.
There, yeah.
For all the other movies, they did what, 5 movies? They've got this figured out by now, how to put the movies together, how to do it and stuff. And I feel like they have an expectation of doing like what, 4 or 5 movies already with this. And they came into that expecting that, and they should have tried to go in with a bang and then figured it out afterwards.
It's amazing to me that in Fantastic Beasts, the Fantastic Beasts are more of a side thing.
They're like
more of a sideshow. You know what I'm saying? That's not really the story of it. Though there is a Deus Machina at the end with the Fantastic Beasts being able to do this Deus Ex Machina, and I was just sitting in the theater, fucking stupid, man, what the fuck, man, this is so... And I don't use this word lightly, and I looked it up just to make sure I'm using it correctly, and I know the meaning of the word, but this is the first time I said out loud, man, this feels contrived. It just feels contrived. And I was like, I don't know. I enjoyed parts of it. Yeah. I think that you will have fun if you see it in theaters, but I don't think it's as good as probably this is going to be heralded, and the audience is going to love it at 99%, 90%. Let's go to the final verdict so you can see where I kind of place this one. So I guess we'll start with Dell. Dell, what's your final verdict out of 10?
So with
5 being average.
With the original Harry Potter in mind, and this being like the first movie that's supposed to pull people in, because let's be honest,
it's gonna be a franchise.
Let's be honest, this has to be a franchise, and this is based on a book that most people haven't read by now.
Yep.
I wouldn't think, because it's not the like where we're growing up being forced to read it.
This is what you get.
It has to be the movie that pulls everyone in and is like, yeah, I want a sequel. But with this, I was like, eh. At the end of it, I'm like, I don't really want to see. It's
kind of how I felt. Like,
one and done, and that's not how you got to go with this movie coming strong.
Yeah.
But the CGI was impressive, although like overdone in some. The world they created was still the wizard world. You know, there was a few issues and stuff, but overall, I mean, I don't really. One way or another, it's like if I see the next one, okay, but I'm not looking forward to it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not expecting it, and so because of that, it's like a 6 for me. It was pretty. The story had issues, and they could have done better. I guess is the way I feel about it. It's a strong 6, leaning towards 7.
Jacob, what are you feeling?
First off,
you get the best character in the film.
I think, I love my character. I told Joe I was gonna go for Halloween as
Jacob.
Mustache and go. I overheard you say something in the theater to Joe, which I think a lot of people have a problem with when it comes to English movies and TV shows, and that's they have no idea what the hell anyone's saying.
Thank you, man. Thank you for reminding me. That's another thing I wanted to say. Like, there are many times where they're mumbling or I can't hear them, I can't understand them, and especially during explanations of like these beasts and these creatures, and I'm like, what did he say?
The English language itself is a very acquired taste.
Because
a lot of people
the newt has a thick accent.
A lot of people just absolutely hate it, and they don't like listening to it. Other people love it. I'm an Anglophile, so I love everything England. So I spent so much of my life watching English movies and TV shows that I can pretty much 90% of the time hear what everyone's saying. So it's not that big of a deal to me. But I do understand they talk so fast and put their words together that you're just like...
And then plus I think there were some words in there that the movie expected me to understand from previous lore of the universe, but they never explained. Or they didn't do a good job explaining these little book words that they use.
Yeah, like if you didn't read it, you have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
With that aside, I liked a lot of the creatures, even though a lot of them didn't get that much screenplay.
Yeah, they were up to the side.
I liked the bad guys. I liked Jacob. Eddie Redmayne is a great actor. I don't know if his character was dull because that's what he was kind of given.
Newt?
Yeah,
the
Newt.
main character? Okay.
That's character was given. He didn't really have much to go off of. Like, you're going to be shy the whole time and just kind of quiet.
But see, I thought that's the way his character was supposed to be. Like, he's not very social. That's why he's just with his animals.
Supposed to be awkward, but he
Yeah.
doesn't go through a character arc, Joe.
No.
Like, he's not a different person at the
He's
end. You
still
don't feel like
socially
he's
awkward.
grown and you don't feel like you've learned more about him. I don't know.
Like Harry Potter, the shy
yeah.
little kid that gets picked on, and then all of a sudden he's...
But that's 8 movies or
Well, no, in the first one. No, in the first Sorcerer's Stone.
I agree. In the first one, he does have a little
He
bit of an
matures,
arc.
like, throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. So, and
This
Newt
one
doesn't
is-
really have that.
This one is Eddie Redmayne doing this a lot.
Yeah.
Newt is gonna shine.
And a lot of the characters were a little stereotypical. You have the sister of, what's the female's character's name? Tina. Tina, who is this investigator who comes into contact with Newt. We didn't even talk about that. She has to arrest him because his beasts get out and he's breaking the magical law between these two worlds. You're not supposed to show that you're a wizard and you have all these things.
But yeah.
Even though these things, I don't understand the beast. Okay, so but her sister is, the first, I said this to Joe, the first time these men walk into their house, she's like, oh, man, like she's never seen a fucking guy before, right? That these two guys are like the hottest dudes. And she's doing this like,
Jacob's the hottest dude.
50s
I got
flapper
the same
thing.
reaction on
I was
that.
like, Jesus Christ. She's one note. And so this whole character, she falls in love with Jacob and she's constantly adoring Jacob. But Jacob, what did they do to earn that? Same thing with Newt.
It's
Newt-
possible.
Love humor.
Well, no, it's possible that she's never seen a Muggle before, like she's been kept inside this little place, but it doesn't really explain that.
Nah, she's constant. She goes to work at
Well,
the
no, because she
magical
says,
area.
but she says I've never met a mug or whatever that non-mage. She said, no.
Really?
Yeah, she said I've never met
I don't
one.
see. I don't understand the way these two worlds work, and it breaks the immersion for me. I can't suspend my disbelief like I could with Harry Potter series, where you're traveling to Hogwarts and you've got that train and you've got this disconnect between the two worlds, which then eventually, when it earns it, it starts to merge the worlds. Here, it throws you right in it. There's so many questions that you have. There's so much bullshit that you're like, no, that would never work. These beasts, where do they come from? Are they naturally occurring on Earth, or are they naturally occurring only in magical areas of the Earth? And how have Muggles never gone to these magical areas? And if you release the bird in Arizona, isn't everybody gonna in Arizona see the bird? And I don't know. I just don't get it. I'm sorry. Okay, so we got sidetracked.
They were going, the best way to
6.
summarize it, they were going for the whole segregation of the like that we dealt with in America. They were literally copying segregation from like the 60s and 50s and stuff, and they were putting it in this movie and trying to literally cut it in half. Because even at the beginning, he does make that story. Oh, you guys don't associate with non-mags. You even hate them. You're not supposed to talk to them. Things like
And they
that.
didn't press it too hard to where I felt that was annoying, but I see what you're saying, yes. So, Jacob, what would you give it out of 10 then?
I think one thing that really worked for it, first off, was that in the Harry Potter series, it's wizards the whole time. And this one, they actually carried a Muggle throughout the entire movie, and it actually worked because
They
Jacob
didn't have
was a
to
great
do that in the
character.
previous
Yeah.
one,
But with all that, and it being me able to reminisce in Harry Potter world, I'll give it an 8. I loved it.
Wow, all right.
Exactly
I'll
what
tell
I
you.
was gonna give it.
Yeah, Joe, okay, for Joe.
I was going to give it an 8 as well. I wanted some more screen time with the Fantastic Beasts because that's what I was expecting. The climax, like I said, was not satisfying for me. So, we'll talk about
it
later.
later.
So that knocked down a couple points. But overall, I still like Newt, although y'all don't.
You like these 3 characters.
I do.
And I noticed it's a
Not so much.
trifecta. It's a
She's
trifecta.
alright.
Just like Ron, Harry,
Yeah.
and Hermione, this one is Tina, Newt, and Jacob.
So just 2 guys
tried
and
to
1
do
girl.
that. Yeah. Oh, well, her sister too is in there. Okay, so 8 out of 10. My final verdict for the film is actually same thing with Dell. I'm going 6. 6 out of 10.
Get out of here. Not Harry Potter.
We're critics.
We're
We're critics.
critics.
I enjoyed it. It's slightly above average. There were parts of the film that I was like, yeah, whoa, all right, I'm in it. Yeah, this feels good. And then there were parts of the film where it dragged, and I'm like, what? Really? And then I'm like, oh man, I love the moments where he's inside of this suitcase and he's talking with all these animals and he's telling what their creatures and what they do, and he even has little habitats for them, and he's doing all that. And then we have to go back to boring ass fucking, washed out colors, 1920s, Colin Farrell, who really is not inspired. He feels like he's sleeping through this villain role or this power trip role, and I don't know. It didn't hit where it needed to hit. No emotional resonance whatsoever. It was a visual spectacle. And that's what the movie studios want. They visual spectacle, CGI effects, put butts in the seats because it's from the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it doesn't have any of the emotion. It doesn't have the great characters. It has the special effects. And at the end, you're like,
That's how I felt. Yeah.
well, let's see what you got next time, which we'll talk in the spoilers. And honestly, I'm not like... Okay, anyway, so that's my final verdict. 6 out of 10, 8 out of 10 from the Harry Potter fans, 6 out of 10 from the movie critics, and that's it, guys.
Oh.
So thank you for watching, and I'm sure there's lots that we could have talked about more, but there's 4 of us, and we don't want to make it too long. But check out the spoiler section right here where we'll get into the nitty-gritty. See you guys on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.